Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a fun one. NFL Week 8 is upon us. Now, before we get into it, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're here for all of our future content. You do not want to miss this. Now, I'm going to jumping in to take a look at what our pick'em records are thus far this season. Sheldon's 58, 45 and 1. I'm 61, 42 and 1. We're okay. We haven't been, phenomenal so far this year. I feel like there's been a ton of upsets that are very, very hard to account for in this. Once again, we're going to take a look at some of the bye week teams. We have the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers, two potent teams in that AFC West. Definitely some question marks around the Chargers organization right now in terms of where they're at. So now we're going to go ahead jump into the Thursday night football game. So it's the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel that this is a tough game to really predict. Now, the Buccaneers are just coming off of a brutal loss to the Carolina Panthers. That is definitely noted going into this game. I think Baltimore is, a little more equipped with what they currently have on roster, but Tampa Bay, this has got to be right the wrongs kind of game. They're at home. I feel like Tom Brady coming off of that brutal loss is going to be, super motivated. I think they're going to have a great game plan against Baltimore. Obviously one of the strengths for Tampa Bay is run defense, and Baltimore loves to run the football. Once again, strength on strength, going to make it an intriguing game to watch. However, I have it, a very, very close game in this one. And I think Tampa Bay narrowly edges them out in this one. Once again, I think a field goal probably decides this game. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Sunday slate. Now, the first one here of the Sunday slate, we have the Denver Broncos going into Jacksonville to face the Jags. Now, this is a very tough decision when you look at it on paper. Jacksonville coming off of a loss to the New York Giants, where I felt that they should have won that football game. I thought they were in a good position. They had some really, really, brutal decisions that were made. I think they got a little bit too aggressive. Therefore, costing themselves the game. Once again, Denver is a team that's trying to figure it out. That loss against the Jets was a tough one to swallow there. Almost came back in the end to win. However, two teams coming off of a loss. I think Jacksonville at home, I really like the run defense. I think, we've seen a little bit more improved corner play this past week out of Jacksonville. But once again, that was against New York Giants offense that ranks 31st in the league in passing. Therefore, it makes it a little bit easier to look better. But Jacksonville here, once again, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Jags overall, but I think this is a winnable game at home. Denver has got to figure out some things here. They paid up for Russell Wilson. There's people, kind of whispering, are they sellers at the deadline? I think it is a very, very possible outcome, which is tough considering they went all in before the season. Next game I have Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Two teams in the NFC South, obviously a rivalry game here, but Atlanta's tough to pick against at home in this one. Carolina coming off of a huge win against Tampa, but I just don't know if I'm really feeling the vibe with Carolina here. A lot of question marks at the quarterback position. The rest of the roster, there's a lot of different things I'm concerned about. I think Atlanta is going to come in with a really nice game plan here. Their defense struggled mightily this past week. Therefore, I think they're going to have to try to figure out how to right some of those wrongs. The one thing you can say is Carolina's offense is not nearly as potent as Cincinnati. So that is something that you have to consider in this one. Atlanta is going to have to really run the ball effectively, maybe a little more Algier. I'm not exactly sure what that formula is going to look like. Arthur Smith has done a pretty nice job with the roster that he has in Atlanta. Once again, I feel that the Falcons are going to come out on top on this one. Next pick, Chicago Bears at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys at home. I feel like, with Dak Prescott being back, it's going to be his second week returning from injury. They're going to have some things ironed out in practice this week. And I think, honestly, it should be a pretty clean game for Dallas. Obviously the Bears run the football well, but I feel like the Dallas Cowboys have that front seven that is able to defend it, really forcing Justin Fields to beat them on the outside. And who knows, maybe we see a Trayvon Diggs interception. I think that is a very, very possible outcome in this game. Next game, we have the Miami Dolphins at the Detroit Lions. Now, once again, I have a feeling that Miami is going to be rolling again here. With Tua being back, I think there's a different vibe, a different energy with this roster. Definitely one that is not super tangible to really put out there. But at the end of the day, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to feast against the Detroit Lions defense that has struggled mightily all season long. Not only against the run, but also against the pass. Once again, Detroit has some positive marks here. Aiden Hutchinson just had a good game. He's a guy that, I'm definitely watching in his rookie campaign. He's, seeing quite a bit of production like he did at Michigan. But there are some question marks to have. This Detroit offense is going to have to figure out some things. The status of Amon-Ra St. Brown is up in the air, therefore making this game, a little easier to pick Miami on the road. There should be some people that are picking the Lions, and I think that's a reasonable selection with them playing at home. And the wins have got to stack somewhere for this team. They've been in some games, they've been in some close ones, but this Detroit Lions offense is pretty good. However, they got to get healthy, they got to get right. And I just don't think it's this week against Miami. Following that up, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings. And this is once again a game where I feel that, Arizona could steal this on the road. I think this is a very, very possible outcome. DeAndre Hopkins being back is, kind of lightning in a bottle here, for the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe they're able to string together some wins here. The Minnesota Vikings have played in a lot of close games. They've been able to capitalize on, some late game mistakes by other teams. And that is something that is the reverse of what happened last year. The Minnesota Vikings, definitely were on the wrong end of those, but they were able to kind of right the wrongs here so far this season. I think, I would not count out the Cardinals in this one, but I feel like the Minnesota Vikings are going to have it going on the ground, therefore opening up some play action for Kirk Cousins, which is one of his biggest strengths here. That's why I opt to stay with Minnesota. The next game is the Las Vegas Raiders and the New Orleans Saints, and you see a little bit of a split here. I end up going with the Saints. Sheldon ends up going with the Raiders. He is a little higher on the Raiders than I am, but the reason I say this is if you do have Michael Thomas come back, you already have Chris Olave back. Jameis Winston is progressing towards this game, and it sounds like he very well could play in it. Otherwise, it's going to be Andy Dalton. But let's not forget, Andy Dalton threw 3 interceptions, and they were still competitive in that game against Arizona. Once again, I think the Saints defense is tremendous. They got guys on all 3 levels that can make plays. That defensive front is very, very tough to go up against. And once again, in that secondary, there are some guys that can make plays on the football, maybe forcing Derek Carr into some unwarranted mistakes here. That's why I opt to go with the New Orleans Saints at home. Tough environment to play in. And, once again, the Raiders need this game super, super bad to stay in that AFC West conversation. And now the next game, we have the New England Patriots versus the New York Jets. We both opted to go with the Jets here. I think when you look at what they've been able to build defensively, the cornerback play has been tremendous so far this season. You got DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner. Those 2 guys have been absolute lockdown so far this season. And the New York Jets have been running the football effectively. Now, a big part of that has been Breece Hall's, resurgence, but it's not looking good right now in terms of what his future is. It hasn't been fully, diagnosed yet at the time of recording. However, it sounds like Breece Hall's ACL is blown out. He's going to miss the rest of the season, and that's kind of where I'm operating out of still. Once again, the New York Jets have been able to find ways to win games. A lot of it's due to their defense and run game. Some of that's going to be tested here, but I think that the Jets do have enough at home to beat the Patriots. The following game here, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think once again, the Eagles on paper are just better than what the Steelers have to offer. Steelers offensively are still trying to work through some things. They got to continue to work Najee Harris to get back to where he was last year. We're just not seeing that same level of explosiveness at the earlier part of the season that we did last year. And also some of those touches are down too with Jalen Warren stealing them. But at the end of the day, the Philadelphia Eagles should get the job done at home. I like their matchups here. They're able to run the football. They're able to throw it effectively, and obviously leading to, a lot of points scored for this offense. And it's a tough place to play when you got to go into Philly. Not an easy environment. So once again, that's why I feel like the Eagles are going to be on top in this one. Following game here, we got the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Once again, you do see a split here. I have to go with the Titans on the road. Sheldon opts to go ahead and stay with the Texans at home. I think part of the rationale here is, a divisional matchup. He tends to lean a little bit more towards the home team in that one, despite the talent level not being the same. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to be presented with some challenges here. Houston's defense is, not elite, but I mean, they haven't been complete pushovers so far this season, like some people had projected. I think that the Tennessee Titans are still going to run the football effectively, come out and play action, and they're really going to work them on some of those intermediate routes through the middle of the field. Therefore, I feel like the Titans can come ahead in this one. Once again, not a slam dunk selection by any stretch of the imagination, but I have some confidence, I guess you can say, in this Tennessee Titans offense to go ahead, get the job done against this Texans defense. The Texans offensively, I do have some questions with Davis Mills. I have some questions about the receiving room and where they are at this point in the season. I'm not in love with the trajectory of that team. Next one here, we got the Commanders and the Indianapolis Colts, and the Commanders are coming off of a huge win against Green Bay, narrowly edging them out. The other, when you look at the Colts perspective here, I think this is kind of interesting, just the storyline. Carson Wentz, against his former team here that, essentially gave up on him. They go with Matt Ryan. I think the Indianapolis Colts here are trying to find a groove, and I think, once again, it could come against the Commanders here. Jonathan Taylor's going to run the ball effectively in this one. And I think when you kind of look holistically, the Colts are starting to piece together some things that have been working for them. You look at the Commanders on that side of things. This is a streaky team, so it would not shock me in the slightest if they stole one on the road. But at the end of the day, it's tough to really project where the Commanders are at this point in the season. Obviously the receiver room is nice for them, but I'm not exactly sure my confidence level in Carson Wentz. But maybe, just maybe, he has an explosive game here against his former team and proves that they shouldn't have traded him, potentially. Now we have the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams, and potentially the most difficult game for me to pick this week. They are in LA, but I look at the history of Shanahan versus McVay, and Shanahan's actually gotten the better half of that matchup there. I think that, what Kyle Shanahan does so well is run the football effectively, and you look at the different backs that he's had. I think in this one, Christian McCaffrey's going to be going early, and they're going to find a lot of ways to get him the ball, whether it's through screens, whether it's through counters. It doesn't really matter how the touches are manufactured. At the end of the day, I think that you have to consider the 49ers as a team that, is very, very tough to beat through the air. Now, I know they're just coming off of a loss, but I'm looking at the historic data here, and that's showing me that San Francisco 49ers, despite them being on the road, should really be considered the favorites here. The big concern I have about the LA Rams is their inability to run the football. They are not finding a rhythm there, therefore making it a little more difficult in the passing game. And I think that also San Fran has the pass rush to really put a lot of pressure on Stafford and potentially force him into some mistakes. Now we have the New York Giants and the Seattle Seahawks. This is a game that was not easy to, really pick from either. I have not been a big believer in the Seahawks, and you can look at my pick'em record. And part of that is due to the Seattle Seahawks proving me wrong time and time again. Once again, playing in Seattle is making a huge difference in my decision. Had this been in New York, easy for me to select New York. But, the New York Giants are finding ways to win. A lot of times it's coming in that game-winning drive from Daniel Jones. He's got 5. The next closest in the NFL, I believe, is 3. He's able to conduct these game-winning drives where he is, spot on with his timing, his precision. There's so much to like about what you've seen from him in those late game situations. But the Seattle Seahawks have kind of found their groove a little bit running the football. Kenneth Walker is a dangerous weapon out of the backfield. A lot of people actually liked Kenneth Walker more than they like Breece Hall, but both of those backs are, proving that they were worthy selections in the draft. Therefore, I think it's going to be difficult for, the New York Giants to defend that run there. Playing in Seattle is a hard enough environment to begin with. And now the fact that Seattle's rolling a little bit, I think once again, you could see this as a difficult matchup for the Giants. And when does the luck run out for the Giants? Is it this week? Or is this really, a legitimate team? I don't really know, because when you look at what Brian Dable's been able to ascend, not only with his staff, but with the players, I think there's a good cohesion here. I think there's a good brotherhood of, all those things together, making a good football team. So I have the, Seattle Seahawks winning this one. I'm a little hesitant to do so, but once again, they've proven me wrong time and time again. Now we have the Sunday night prime time, and wow, this is a difficult game for Green Bay to enter into. Now, at this point in the season, if you would have told me, that Green Bay would have lost to Minnesota by a landslide, they lost to Washington, they lost to the Giants, I would say that was not an accurate statement. But now looking at this point in the season, they're definitely barely floating right now. There's a lot of concerns with this passing offense. Obviously, I like the run game, but the passing offense has not been exactly where we thought that it still could be, despite a lot of the key departures, more specifically Devontae Adams in that one. But I think Green Bay is in a position here where it's a must-win game. Now, if Minnesota is able to take care of business, which at this point in the game we will know the results of that Minnesota Arizona game, I think there's a tremendous amount of pressure because if Minnesota wins that, Green Bay, this is an absolute must have, even early on in the season here, because Minnesota's been rolling, winning close games. Green Bay definitely has had, they have to figure it out quick. Now, I look at Buffalo as a tough matchup for them. However, I think Green Bay can match up pretty well, especially with having, Jair Alexander and everything. But, Buffalo Bills are able to attack you in a numerous amount of ways, especially throwing the football. They're dangerous. So Josh Allen with his legs, him throwing the football. This defense is super stingy. Good man corners, guys that can cover all over the place, guys that can throw a lot of different looks at you. Leslie Frazier has done a tremendous job with this defense, and I think that doesn't change here against Green Bay. They're going to have a good game plan. It's in prime time. Buffalo has been able to pull out some key wins so far this season, and I don't really think that stops here. We both have the Bills. Now, finally, here we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. This is a divisional matchup on prime time where I think if Deshaun Watson is playing, this might be a different discussion, but I just don't know if I have the utmost confidence here, that Jacoby Brissett's going to be able to keep up with this Bengals offense. Cincinnati, once again, is dangerous with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and you look at Joe Mixon as well. They found a nice culmination of talent here. Once again, they are trying to right the wrongs of where they started so far this season. And now it seems like they've made some key adjustments and they are right in rhythm now. Cincinnati Bengals here. Joe Burrow was flinging the ball all over the field. Super, super exciting to watch this team kind of form back to what we saw in the postseason. They got off to a very slow start, but now people are starting to regret, really writing this team off already at this point in the season. But Cincinnati matches up well here. They're going to throw the football a lot, but they're also going to have a nice balance of the run game as well to kind of, counteract that. That's why I like the Bengals here. I think it's still going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because they are in Cleveland. And divisional matchups, tend to tighten up a little bit because the other opponent that much more. So once again, that's why I'm opting to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, even though that they are on the road. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. Also, leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy the content. We're going to continue to produce more NFL content as time goes on. You're going to see mock drafts and things of that nature come up on our channel. So once again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.